Stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop begging someone to see you. I do not say this to be harsh. I say it because your dignity demands it, and I will not watch you trade your peace for scraps of attention from someone who has forgotten how to value what is rare. Listen, you have been operating under a false belief. You think that if you try harder, give more, prove yourself again, they will finally understand what they have in you. But effort does not create worth in their eyes. Absence does. Distance does. The quiet removal of what they took for granted, not as punishment, but as truth. You are reclaiming yourself. And in that act, they will finally see what they lost. I know why you are here. You are exhausted from trying, tired of wondering why your effort means nothing to someone who should treasure it. You have given and watched your generosity be met with indifference or taken for granted. You have explained yourself until your throat is dry, and still they do not understand. Or worse, they understand and do not care. You lie awake, replaying conversations, analyzing your mistakes, trying to solve the puzzle of their coldness. And beneath all of this runs a darker question. What is wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. But everything is wrong with what you are doing. You have been taught a lie. That persistence proves love. That effort demonstrates value. That if you just try hard enough, give enough, diminish yourself enough, they will finally see you. But this is not how human nature works. This is not how respect is born. Here is what I know from decades of observing both power and the human heart. We do not value what chases us. We value what has the dignity to turn away. We do not treasure what begs. We treasure what maintains its worth in the face of our indifference. And we do not recognize what we have until it is no longer reaching for us. I am not speaking as someone who has merely thought about these truths. I have lived them. I served emperors and was exiled by them. I counseled the powerful and was betrayed by some. I have known both the heights of favor and the depths of rejection. And through it all, I learned this. The moment I stopped needing their approval, I became free. The moment I withdrew my energy from those who did not value it, I reclaimed my power. Not the power to control them. That is not freedom, but the power to control myself, my peace, my attention, my regard. Right now, you are living in scarcity. You believe that their attention, their affection, their acknowledgement is rare and precious, and so you scramble for crumbs of it. You have made them the judge of your worth. And in doing so, you have given away the one thing you cannot afford to lose: your sovereignty over your own mind. But there is another way, a way where you wake up and do not immediately think of them, where you do not check for their messages or analyze their distance, where you understand, in your bones, that your value is not diminished by their blindness to it. Where you withdraw, not in anger, not as manipulation, but in the simple recognition that you will no longer participate in your own diminishment. And here is what happens when you do this. You become unmovable. You become rare. And in time, perhaps weeks, perhaps months, perhaps only after you have stopped caring, they will reach for you and find you are no longer there. Not because you are hiding or playing games, but because you have remembered who you are. This is not advice about tactics or strategy. I am not teaching you how to manipulate someone into wanting you. I am teaching you how to stop betraying yourself, how to live with such internal richness that you no longer hunger for external validation, how to withdraw your needs so completely that you become free, whether they ever return or not. This is Stoic wisdom. It is ancient and it is true. And if you listen, it will change not just this situation, but every situation where you have given your power away. Let me tell you 3 stories. Each one reveals a truth about human nature that you must understand if you are ever to stop chasing what runs from you. In my years in Rome, I knew a senator, a man of considerable influence, who sought the friendship of a particular philosopher. This philosopher was known for his wisdom, yes, but more than that, for his indifference to power. He did not court senators, he did not attend their gatherings unless summoned. He lived simply, spoke rarely, and gave his time to very few. The senator, accustomed to having men seek his favor, found himself in the unfamiliar position of pursuing someone who did not pursue him back. He invited the philosopher to his villa. The philosopher declined. He sent expensive gifts. The philosopher returned them with a polite note. He arranged for mutual friends to speak on his behalf. The philosopher remained unmoved. This went on for nearly 2 years. And what happened? The senator's desire grew. He spoke of little else. He told others that this philosopher was the only man in Rome whose counsel he truly wanted. He began to believe that winning this man's friendship would validate something essential about himself. Then, quite suddenly, the philosopher agreed to visit. One evening. One conversation. The philosopher was learned, yes, but no more brilliant than a dozen other men the senator knew. His insights were valuable, but not miraculous. The senator left that meeting feeling deflated, confused. He had built this man into something mythical through his own pursuit. Here is what I learned from watching this. The senator's hunger had nothing to do with what the philosopher actually offered. It had everything to do with the fact that the philosopher did not offer it freely. We transform people into treasures not because of their inherent worth, but because they withhold themselves from us. And we do not recognize this until the chase ends. You are the philosopher in your own life, but you have forgotten how to be withholding. You have offered yourself so freely, so completely, that you have lost your scarcity. And in losing your scarcity, you have lost their hunger for you. Let me tell you another story. I once taught a young student who was desperate for my approval. He would arrive early to our sessions, stay late, ask question after question, seeking not knowledge but affirmation. He would revise his writings endlessly, always asking, "Is this good enough? Do you think I understand? What more should I do?" I gave him what he asked for: attention, correction, guidance. But I noticed something troubling. He was not growing. His dependence on my approval was preventing him from developing his own judgment. He was so focused on pleasing me that he could not hear his own mind. One day, I stopped responding to his questions. When he asked, "Is this correct?" I said, "What do you think?" When he sought my approval, I returned only silence. He was confused, wounded. He believed I had withdrawn my care. For weeks, he struggled. He stopped coming as often. I would see him in the courtyard, working alone, no longer seeking me out. And then, something remarkable happened. His work improved, not because I was no longer teaching him, but because he was finally teaching himself. He began to trust his own reasoning, to develop his own voice, to find satisfaction in his own understanding rather than in my recognition of it. When he finally came to me again, months later, it was not as a desperate student seeking validation. It was as a young man who had discovered his own center. And in that moment, I gave him what I could never give before: my genuine respect. Do you see? His transformation did not come from more of my attention. It came from the space I created by withdrawing it. The same is true for you. The person you are chasing will never value you fully while you are chasing them. They can only see your worth when they are required to reach for it and find it no longer extended toward them. Now I must tell you of my own exile, for it taught me what I am trying to teach you now. I was sent away from Rome by the Emperor Claudius, accused of adultery with his niece, a false charge, born of politics and jealousy. I was stripped of my position, my wealth, my influence. Everything I had worked for was taken in an instant. I went to Corsica, that barren island, and in my first months there, I did something I am not proud of. I begged. I wrote letters to the emperor, to his wife, to anyone with influence. I explained my innocence. I pleaded for mercy. I made my case again and again, certain that if I just found the right words, the right argument, the right approach, they would see their mistake and restore me. Do you know what my begging earned me? Nothing. Worse than nothing. It earned me their contempt. My letters made me appear weak, desperate, guilty. The more I chased their mercy, the more comfortable they became in withholding it. Then something shifted in me. I stopped writing. I stopped explaining. I stopped hoping for their recognition. Instead, I turned inward. I studied. I wrote. I developed my philosophy not for them, but for myself. I built a life that was independent of their approval. I became, for the first time in years, self-sufficient, and what happened? 8 years later, they recalled me, not because I had convinced them, but because they needed me. A new empress required a tutor for her son, the future emperor Nero. They needed my mind, my guidance, my reputation, and by then, I had stopped needing them. My liberation came not when they restored me, but when I stopped seeking restoration. Yours will come the same way. Not when they return, but when you no longer require them to. Now you have seen it in story. Let me show you the principles beneath these truths. The laws of human nature that make this wisdom reliable, not occasional. There are 6 truths about chasing, begging, and letting go. Each one will challenge what you believe about relationships, worth, and power. By the end, you will understand why withdrawal is not cruelty. It is the only path to genuine respect. The first law. Human beings do not treasure what is always within reach. We value what is scarce, what requires effort to attain, what can be lost. This is not shallow or cruel. It is how we are made. Our attention follows difficulty. Our desire follows distance. When you are always available, always responsive, always willing to explain or forgive or try again, you eliminate the very thing that makes others value you. The possibility of your absence. Think of water. In a time of drought, it is more precious than gold. But when it flows freely from every fountain, we waste it without thought. You have been water in a time of abundance. You have poured yourself out so freely that they have forgotten what it is to thirst for you. The wisdom here is not to become cruel or withholding out of manipulation. It is to recognize that your constant availability has taught them that you will always be there, and so they have stopped appreciating that you are. You cannot make someone value you by proving your worth. They will only value you when they fear losing access to it. Stop being so quick to respond. Stop being so eager to fix things. Stop being so present in their life that they forget what your absence would feel like. Create space, not as punishment, but as truth. I will give you an example from my own observation. There was a woman in Rome who had 2 suitors. The first sent her flowers daily. He wrote letters professing his devotion. He made himself available at every hour, rearranging his entire life around the possibility of seeing her. The second was courteous but distant. He appeared at social gatherings but did not pursue. He was pleasant when they spoke but did not seek her out. He had his own life, his own interests, his own complete existence. Which one do you think won her attention? The second. Always the second. Not because he was more handsome or wealthier or more clever, but because he was scarce, because his attention, when given, felt valuable, because she had to work to earn his regard. The first man, in his generosity and devotion, had made himself common, and we do not prize what is common. This is not a judgment on the woman's character. This is simply how human nature operates. We are drawn to what challenges us, what requires us to stretch, what we might lose, and we take for granted what is always there, always available, always willing to accommodate us. Here is a second hard truth. In any relationship, the person who pursues has lower status than the person who is pursued, not morally lower. Your character is not diminished by your effort, but socially, psychologically, lower. The one who chases is perceived as needing something the other has, and we do not respect those who need us. We respect those who are complete without us. When you chase someone, with messages, explanations, attempts to restore connection, you are telling them, with every gesture, I am incomplete without you. I need your validation. I cannot be at peace until you acknowledge me. And they hear this, even if you never say the words. The cruel irony is that the very effort you make to prove your worth proves to them that you doubt it. If you truly believed in your own value, you would not be so desperate to convince them of it. Now, some will say, but I am simply showing love. I am being persistent. I am fighting for the relationship, and I understand this impulse, but understand the difference. Love that is healthy offers itself, and then respects the other's freedom to accept or decline. Love that is desperate offers itself, and then cannot bear to withdraw. It keeps offering, keeps explaining, keeps pursuing, and in doing so becomes something other than love. It becomes need, and need repels. The Stoics teach that virtue alone is sufficient for happiness. When you truly grasp this, you stop needing external validation. You understand that your worth exists independent of anyone's recognition of it. And ironically, the moment you understand this is the moment others begin to recognize it. Let me be even more direct about this principle. When you pursue someone, you are saying, through your actions, my happiness depends on you. My peace requires your acknowledgement. I am not whole without your attention. And when someone hears this message, even unconsciously, they begin to believe it. They begin to see you as someone who is incomplete, someone who needs them to be whole. And that is not attractive. That is not magnetic. But when you withdraw, when you demonstrate through your actions that you are complete, whether they acknowledge you or not, you send a different message. You say, I am whole, I am sufficient. Your presence in my life would be welcome, but your absence does not diminish me. And that message, that quiet self-sufficiency, is what draws people to you, not because you are playing a game, but because you are demonstrating a truth. You are valuable because you know you are valuable, not because someone else confirms it. The third truth. There is a reason we remember the dead more fondly than the living, a reason we miss what is gone more than we appreciate what remains. A reason an unanswered letter troubles us more than 100 answered ones satisfy us. It is this: absence amplifies, presence diminishes. When you are constantly present, in their messages, in their thoughts, in their daily awareness, you become part of the background. You become expected. You are the familiar landscape they no longer notice. But when you withdraw, you create a void, and human nature abhors a void. The space where you were becomes loud with your absence. This is not manipulation if done rightly. You are not withdrawing to punish or to make them suffer. You are withdrawing because you have recognized a truth. Your presence was not being valued, and rather than continue participating in your own diminishment, you remove yourself. not in anger, but in dignity. What does this mean? It means that right now, in whatever relationship is causing you pain, your continued presence is hurting your cause. Every message you send, trying to explain yourself, makes you less mysterious. Every attempt you make to restore connection makes you more predictable. Every time you are the one to reach out, you train them to expect your pursuit. The strongest thing you can do is to stop. Stop explaining, stop pursuing, stop being available, not forever, necessarily, but long enough for them to feel the weight of your absence, long enough for them to remember what they had. Listen to me carefully now. There is something you possess that is more valuable than their approval, their affection, their acknowledgement. It is your self-respect, your dignity, the private knowledge that you have not betrayed yourself in pursuit of someone who does not value you. When you beg, when you over-explain, when you chase, when you accept crumbs of attention and call it feast, you are not just failing to win them. You are losing yourself. You are teaching yourself that you are worth less than your desperation. You are rewiring your own mind to believe that your peace is dependent on someone else's whim. This is the true cost of chasing. Not that you might fail to win them back, but that, in the attempt, you give up something far more precious. Your own dignity. I say to you what I would say to my own son. No relationship is worth the cost of your self-respect. No person is worth the price of your inner peace. No reconciliation is valuable if you must diminish yourself to achieve it. I have seen men in the Senate bow and scrape before emperors, trading their dignity for favor. I have watched them laugh at jokes that were not funny, agree with opinions they found abhorrent, abandon friends they loved, all to maintain their position. And do you know what I observed? The more they debased themselves, the less they were respected. The more they chased power, the more it eluded them. There was one senator who pursued the favor of Caligula with desperate intensity. He attended every gathering. He laughed loudest at every cruel jest. He informed on his own colleagues to curry favor. And Caligula, that monster, despised him for it. He kept him close, not out of respect, but out of contempt. He knew this man would do anything, and so he valued him as nothing. Compare this to Cato, who refused to bow even when refusal meant exile and death, who maintained his principles even when it cost him everything. Whom did history remember with honor? Whom did even his enemies respect? The one who would not be diminished, the one who chose death over dishonor, the one who understood that there are things more valuable than survival, more precious than comfort, more important than another's approval. You are facing the same choice, though perhaps in a smaller arena. Will you maintain your dignity, or will you trade it for the possibility of their attention? Will you remain whole, or will you break yourself into pieces, trying to fit into their expectations? We teach in the Stoa that virtue is the only true good. Everything else, pleasure, comfort, companionship, even love, these are preferred indifference. They are nice to have, but they are not necessary for your happiness or your worth. When you truly understand this, you become free. Free to walk away from anything that requires you to betray yourself. Free to value your own judgment more than another's opinion. Free to be at peace regardless of who stays or goes. I am asking you to make a choice. Right now. Not between them and solitude. Not between fighting and giving up. But between dignity and desperation. Between self-respect and self-abandonment. Choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose the quiet knowledge that you did not chase what ran from you. Here is what will happen when you stop chasing. At first, nothing. They will not notice immediately. They have grown so accustomed to your availability that your initial absence will seem like a minor change. They will assume you are busy, distracted, temporarily pulled away. They will not worry because they have learned that you always come back, but then time will pass. Days will become weeks. They will expect your message, and it will not come. They will think of something they wanted to tell you and realize you are not there to hear it. They will reach, habitually, for your attention and find only air. This is when the shift occurs. This is when your absence transforms from a detail into a reality. They begin to notice what they took for granted. The ease of your company, the warmth of your attention, the security of knowing you were always there, and in noticing its absence, they begin, for the first time, to value what it was. Now listen. I am not promising they will come back. That is not the point. Some will. Some will not. Some will reach out in a panic of recognition. Others will move on, and you will realize they never valued you as you deserved. Both outcomes are acceptable. Both are better than continuing to chase. Why? Because if they return to someone who has maintained their dignity, someone who would not be diminished, someone who proved, through their absence, that they do not need validation to survive. And that person, that version of you, is worth returning to. And if they do not return, then you have learned the truth earlier rather than later. You have saved yourself months or years of diminishment. You have preserved your dignity and your peace. You have proven to yourself that you can survive their absence, and that knowledge is worth more than their return ever could be. What I am really teaching you is this. Let them see what they lost, not so they will want you back, but so you will finally be free of wanting them. You need to recognize, in your own heart, that you are worth more than begging, that you are complete without their validation, that your value does not increase or decrease based on their awareness of it. Now we arrive at the heart of the matter. Everything I have told you about not chasing, not begging, withdrawing, letting them see what they lost, all of it serves one purpose: to return you to yourself, to make you self-sufficient, to restore your internal kingdom. A self-sufficient person does not need external validation to know their worth. They do not require another person's attention to feel secure. They do not depend on someone else's approval to be at peace. They are complete, not because they have everything, but because they need nothing outside themselves to be whole. This is what the Stoics called autarkia, self-sufficiency. It is the foundation of all freedom. When you are self-sufficient, you cannot be controlled. You cannot be manipulated. You cannot be diminished by someone's indifference, because their opinion of you does not determine your opinion of yourself. Do you see the paradox? The less you need someone, the more power you have in the relationship. Not power over them, that is tyranny, but power within yourself. The power to stay or go based on whether they add to your life, not whether you can survive without them. The power to set standards and maintain them. The power to say, I will not accept less than I deserve, and mean it. When you are self-sufficient, your relationships become choices, not necessities. You are with people because they enhance your life, not because you need them to complete it. And people can feel this. They can sense when you are with them from wholeness rather than neediness, and that is attractive, that is magnetic, that is what draws genuine respect. Think about the people in your own life who you most admire. Are they the ones who need you desperately? Who cannot function without constant validation? Who organize their entire existence around your approval? Or are they the ones who are complete in themselves, who have rich inner lives, interesting thoughts, passionate pursuits, who would be perfectly fine whether you were in their life or not, but choose to include you because they value what you bring? I guarantee it is the latter. We admire self-sufficiency. We are drawn to people who do not need us, not because we are perverse, but because their self-sufficiency proves they are choosing us freely, not from desperation. I learned this in my exile on Corsica. In the first months, I was miserable because I felt I needed Rome. I needed my position, my influence, my place in society. But gradually, I discovered something remarkable. I did not need Rome. I had carried everything essential with me. My mind, my capacity to reason, my ability to find meaning and purpose. Once I understood this, once I became truly self-sufficient, I was free. Not free to leave the island, that power was not mine, but free within myself, free to be content whether they recalled me or not. And, paradoxically, once I achieved that freedom, once I stopped needing their approval, that is when they recalled me. But by then, it hardly mattered. So here is my final lesson in this section. Stop trying to get them to see what they lost. Instead, become so self-sufficient, so internally rich, so at peace with yourself, that their absence becomes irrelevant. Build a life so full of meaning, purpose, study, virtue, and genuine friendships that whether they stay or go becomes a minor detail rather than a catastrophe. This is what it means to let them see what they lost, not through absence alone, but through the transformation that absence allows. When they finally look for you, if they ever do, they will find someone who no longer needs them, and that person is free. You understand now, in principle. But understanding without practice is hollow. Let me give you the daily exercises that will turn this wisdom into lived reality. Here are 5 practices you will begin today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today. Because each day you delay is another day you trade your dignity for someone's indifference. The first practice is the daily inventory. Each evening, before you sleep, take 10 minutes for this exercise. In a journal, ask yourself 3 questions. First, today, did I chase what ran from me? Be specific. Did you send a message hoping for a response? Did you over-explain yourself? Did you make yourself available when you should have maintained distance? Write it down. Do not judge yourself harshly. Simply observe. Second, today, did I beg for what should be freely given? Did you ask for attention, validation, or acknowledgement from someone who has shown you they will not give it? Did you accept crumbs and call it sustenance? Again, write honestly. Third, today, did I remember my own worth? Did you spend time on something that reminded you of your value? Did you invest in yourself, your mind, your skills, your peace? Or did you spend your mental energy on someone who does not spend theirs on you? This inventory creates awareness. You cannot change what you do not notice. By observing your patterns each evening, you begin to see how often you abandon yourself. And awareness, over time, naturally creates change. You will begin to catch yourself before you chase, before you beg, before you forget your worth. Let me tell you what happened when I began this practice myself many years ago. Each evening, I would review my day and ask, did I act with virtue today? Did I maintain my principles, or did I compromise them for convenience or favor? And in that review, I began to see patterns I had not noticed before. How often I had spoken when silence would have been wiser. How often I had agreed when my reasons said to disagree. How often I had sought approval when I should have simply done what was right. This awareness was uncomfortable at first. It is painful to see clearly how often we betray ourselves. But that pain is useful. It is the pain that creates growth. You may find, in your first week of this practice that you write down many instances of chasing, begging, forgetting your worth. Do not be discouraged. You are simply becoming aware of patterns that were always there. The awareness itself is progress. By the second week, you will start to catch yourself during the day. You will think, I am about to send this message, seeking their validation. And you will remember the inventory you will have to write that evening. And sometimes, that memory alone will be enough to stop you. The second practice is the response delay. Here is a simple rule that will transform your relationships. Never respond immediately to someone who has not been responding to you. If they take hours to reply, you wait hours. If they take days, you wait days. If they are sporadic and unpredictable, you become equally so. This is not to punish them, it is to match their energy. To stop being the one who always pursues, always responds, always tries harder. But more than this, use the delay to ask yourself, do I even want to respond? Often, you will find that your urgency to reply comes not from genuine connection, but from anxiety, from the fear that if you wait, they will lose interest, from the need to prove you are available. Resist this urgency, let the message sit, and if, after some hours or days, you still want to respond, do so, but you will be surprised how often the desire fades. How often you realize you were responding not out of joy, but out of fear. This practice teaches you that you do not need to be constantly available to be valued. In fact, your constant availability is preventing you from being valued. The space you create by delaying teaches both them and you that your time has worth. That access to you is a privilege, not an entitlement. I will give you a specific example of how to implement this. Let us say they send you a message. Your immediate impulse is to respond right away, to show that you are available, that you care, that you are thinking of them. Resist that impulse. Instead, put your phone down. Go do something else. Read, write, walk, work. Engage with your own life. Return to the message later, perhaps in a few hours, perhaps the next day, and read it again with fresh eyes. Often, you will find that the urgency you felt to respond was not about connection at all. It was about anxiety, about fear that if you do not respond immediately, they will forget about you, lose interest, move on. But that fear is what has been driving you to diminish yourself. When you delay, you break the pattern of that fear. You prove to yourself that you can survive their message without immediately responding. You demonstrate that you have a life, interests, purposes beyond being available to them. And this is healthy. And if they take offense at your delay, if they complain that you did not respond immediately, then you have learned something valuable. You have learned that they expect you to be always available, always waiting, always organized around their convenience. And that expectation is precisely what you are working to break. The third practice is the redirection of energy. Right now, you are spending enormous energy on someone who is not spending energy on you. This must stop, not because it is wrong to care, but because it is foolish to pour yourself into a vessel that will not hold water. Here is your practice. Every time you think of them, every time you want to message them, check on them, explain yourself to them, you will instead redirect that energy into yourself. Want to send them a long message? Write it in your journal instead, then write to yourself. What do I need right now that I am seeking from them? Often, it is not them at all. It is reassurance, comfort, validation. And you can give yourself these things. Want to know why they are ignoring you? Turn the question around. What am I ignoring in myself that makes me tolerate this treatment? Want them to finally understand you? Understand yourself instead. Study philosophy. Write. Think. Develop your mind. Become so interesting to yourself that their attention becomes irrelevant. This practice has two effects. First, you reclaim the energy you were wasting. Second, you build something real, your own substance, your own character, your own inner life. And that substance is attractive. It is magnetic. It is the thing that will eventually draw people of real worth to you. Let me be specific about what this redirection looks like in daily life. You wake up in the morning and your first thought is of them. Did they message? Are they thinking of you? What are they doing right now? This is the pattern you must break. Instead, when that thought arises, you will say to yourself, I am choosing to think about myself this morning. What do I need today? What would make today meaningful for me? Then you will do that thing. You will read a chapter of philosophy. You will write in your journal. You will exercise. You will work on a project that matters to you. You will do something that reminds you that your life has substance beyond this relationship that is causing you pain. I used to do this in my exile. I would think of Rome, of my former life, of everything I had lost, and those thoughts would spiral into despair if I let them. So instead, when they arose, I would say, yes, I remember Rome, and now I am going to study this text on virtue. I did not try to stop thinking about what I had lost. I simply refused to let those thoughts consume the energy I needed for building what I still had. Over time, something remarkable happens with this practice. You think of them less, not because you force yourself not to, but because your mind becomes genuinely interested in other things. You discover that you have neglected so many parts of yourself while focusing all your energy on them. The fourth practice is the boundary statement. You need one conversation with yourself that becomes a sacred boundary. You will write it down. You will read it daily. You will make it your law. Here is mine, which you may adapt. I will not chase what runs from me. I will not beg for what should be freely given. I will not explain myself to someone who has decided not to understand. I will not accept crumbs and call it feast. I will not trade my dignity for anyone's approval. I am complete. I am sufficient. I am free. Read this every morning. Read it whenever you are tempted to break it. Read it until it is not words but truth, living in your bones. You have been operating without boundaries. You have allowed yourself to pursue, to beg, to accept poor treatment because you never clearly stated to yourself where your line is. This practice draws the line. It makes explicit what you will and will not do, and the repetition of it trains your mind to respect it. When the urge comes to message them again, to explain again, to chase again, you will remember your boundary, and remembering it will give you the strength to honor it. The fifth practice is the 30-day withdrawal. This is the most difficult practice and the most necessary. For 30 days, you will have no contact with the person you have been chasing, none. No messages, no likes, no accidental encounters, no checking their social media, no asking mutual friends about them. Complete withdrawal. I do not care if this seems extreme. I do not care if it feels impossible. It is necessary. You need to break the addiction to their attention, and it is an addiction. Your mind has learned to seek relief in their responses and now suffers withdrawal in their absence. The first week will be hard. You will want to break this rule constantly. Every day, write down why you are doing this. Write, I am withdrawing not to punish them, but to save myself. I am creating space for clarity. I am teaching myself that I can survive without their validation. Let me tell you what to expect in this first week. The first day will feel almost liberating. You will feel a sense of control, of finally doing something instead of passively suffering. But by the second or third day, the withdrawal symptoms will begin. You will want desperately to check their social media. You will compose messages in your head that you cannot send. You will feel the pull of your old patterns like a physical ache. This is normal. This is your mind adjusting to the absence of something it had become addicted to. Do not judge yourself for these feelings. Simply observe them. Write about them in your journal. Notice how the urge rises, peaks, and then fades if you do not act on it. By the end of the first week, you will have proven something crucial to yourself. You can survive 7 days without contact, 7 days without their validation, 7 days where your worth was not confirmed by them, and yet you are still here, still standing, still intact. The second week, you will begin to feel the shift. You will think of them less often. When you do think of them, it will be with less urgency, less pain. Small moments of genuine joy begin to return. During this second week, something interesting often happens. You will laugh at something and realize you had forgotten what real laughter felt like. You will have a conversation with a friend and realize you are actually present, actually engaged, not distracted by thoughts of the person you are withdrawing from. You may also experience moments of doubt during this second week. You may think, perhaps I am being too harsh. Perhaps I should reach out. These thoughts are your old patterns, trying to reassert themselves. Recognize them for what they are: fear disguised as compassion, need disguised as love. Remind yourself why you began this withdrawal. By the third week, something remarkable happens. You start to remember who you are without them. You start to build a life that is not organized around their attention or absence. In this third week, you will begin to rediscover interests you had abandoned, hobbies you stopped pursuing because you were too focused on them, friends you neglected because you were always available for someone who was not available for you, parts of yourself you had put aside in your desperate attempts to be whatever you thought they wanted. This is the week where you start to feel genuinely different. Not just going through the motions of withdrawal, but actually transformed by it. You start to develop a quiet confidence. You may also notice something else in this third week. The person you are withdrawing from may reach out. This is common. They have become accustomed to your pursuit, and your absence has created a void. They may send a casual message. Ask how you are. This is a test, not of them, but of you. My advice is this: if they reach out during your 30 days, respond briefly and politely, but do not re-engage. Do not take the bait. Do not fall back into the pattern of over-explaining, over-giving, chasing. Simply acknowledge the message and then return to your withdrawal. You made a commitment to 30 days, and you will honor it. By the fourth week, you will be free. Not completely, but enough to make decisions from clarity rather than desperation. You will feel a deep sense of peace. The peace that comes from knowing you survived. From knowing you can be okay without their validation. After 30 days, you reassess. Do you even want them back? Often the answer is no. Often you realize that what you wanted was not them specifically, but relief from the pain of being dismissed. And you have found that relief in your own sufficiency. If you do still want connection, you can reach out. But now you are doing so from strength, not need. From completeness, not desperation. And that changes everything. These 5 practices are not suggestions. They are prescriptions for your freedom. Do them. Do them daily. Do them even when, especially when, you do not feel like it. Over time, they will become natural. Over time, You will not need them anymore, because you will have become someone who does not chase, does not beg, and does not need anyone to see what they lost to know your own worth. Let me leave you with this. You came here exhausted from chasing, diminished from begging, desperate for someone to finally see what they had in you. And I have told you that your liberation does not come from their recognition, it comes from your withdrawal. Stop chasing, not to punish them, but to honor yourself. Stop begging, not to manipulate them, but to preserve your dignity. Let them see what they lost, not to win them back, but to set yourself free. Here is the truth beneath all of this. You are complete now, not when they return, not when they finally understand, not when they apologize or acknowledge or make things right. Now, as you are, in this moment. You lack nothing essential. Their presence in your life would be a gift, but their absence is not a tragedy. You do not need them to validate you. You are already valid. You do not need them to complete you. You are already whole. You do not need them to see your worth. You already possess it. Withdraw. Not in anger, not in bitterness, not as strategy, but as truth. Withdraw your need from them and return it to yourself. Build your inner life so rich, so full, so peaceful, that whether they stay or go becomes a detail rather than a catastrophe. And if they ever return, let them find someone who no longer needs them, someone who maintained their dignity, someone who would not be diminished, someone who is free. I will not chase what runs from me. I will not beg for what should be freely given. I will not trade my peace for anyone's approval. I am complete. I am sufficient. I am free. And in my sufficiency, I am unmovable. If this wisdom has served you, I ask 3 small things. First, subscribe to this channel. There is more truth here that will aid your journey toward inner freedom. Second, press the like button if these words resonated in your spirit. It helps this teaching reach others who are trapped where you once were. And third, tell me in the comments, what are you going to stop chasing starting today? I want to hear from you. I want to know you are taking this seriously. Go now, stop chasing, reclaim yourself, and remember, they will see what they lost, not when you beg, but when you are gone.